Welcome back, everybody. We're going to be talking about... What the fuck are we talking about?
The fuck are Hello, and welcome to The Many Parallels. We're your hosts, Trevor and Zach, and today we are talking about technology and its effects on people's motivation and their drive and shit.
Yes, sir.
Would you like to start with anything, or... I got some shit.
You know me, I'm always like looking at the origins of different bullshit. So Greek, it comes from, the word technology comes from Greek technologia, or whatever, however you would like to say that. A systematic approach or technique to any certain skill or, area that you could apply, a certain, what does it say again? Systematic approach. Okay, so that's just to get an idea of what technology, I guess, is and the meaning of it. But that's all. I'll pass it back to you.
No reason specifically for bringing it up. You just wanted to break down the etymology.
Yeah, just people it's pretty self-explanatory. Like, oh yeah, like a computer is technology, or a crane is technology, whatever. But like, just the idea of what it is, just really let that get into your head. Just like
Re-explain that, because I was kind of looking at just a.
Oh yeah. Just like re-explain what I just said.
No, the definition you gave.
Definition. Okay, so.
Like the etymology of the word.
A systematic approach or technique to basically a skill or an area.
Okay, because just a systematic treatment of an art, craft, technique, whatever.
There we go.
Text, suffix from the root word text, to weave, also to fabricate, and the ending, I don't know what the fuck, it doesn't give me that definition, but alright. So
the fabricate part's kind of interesting.
Fabricate, yeah. You could make the argument that technology, fabricates society.
It fabricates. Yeah, that's very interesting. But it's like a lot of it is justified through how apparently useful it is. Like I think that's why we would institute any technology.
And that's kind of what we're here to talk about is. At what point is technology gone too far in no longer being useful, in benefiting us to accomplish tasks, and that it's actually detrimental to
Working
us?
The other way.
Yes,
Yeah.
Exactly. At what point does it get to that? Now, there's a lot of fucking avenues you could go down with why and what. But before we get down to all of that, first, I want to ask you, sort of unrelated, but not entirely, are you familiar with... Sigmund Freud's theory of human personality?
Not quite. I mean, I remember learning about him in the psychology class I took, but I was mostly stoned when I was in there, so I only retained a little bit. So it enlightened me. So,
according to Freud, and I heard also, want to preface this before I get into it, that he didn't. The typical way people go about scientific studies and shit is they do research groups. His evidence has been more anecdotal. From as a psychologist, he had a certain method called the free association or something along those lines.
That sounds familiar.
Where essentially he would just let people talk unhindered and kind of break down. And I believe that this is from what he noticed. In many cases. So he believes that the personality is broken down into three separate parts: the id, the ego, and the superego.
Right.
Basic run over. The id is the impulsive, instinctual part of our psyche. It is the part of us that unconsciously seeks instant gratification. The devil on your shoulder.
It's like the animalistic part of us almost.
It's the part of us, if you will, that craves all the 7 deadly sins I believe we've talked about, and why I believe evolutionarily it makes sense on why we would develop them. That's what the id is. It's that manifestation.
Like bodily desires type of thing.
Yes, exactly. Instant gratification.
Cool.
The id operates on the pleasure principle, which is the idea that every impulse should be satisfied immediately, regardless of consequences.
That reminds me of this like Greek philosophy that I forget who he was. This is just I'm not as studied with this gentleman, but I remember reading that he thinks that pleasure is the highest virtue that one could attain, like just living in a state of pleasure, but it's about having the correct pleasures. So like maybe there's a distinction between like I'm not sure if he would denounce the bodily type of cravings and stuff like that,
Yeah.
but yeah, it's interesting. It's like there's definitely some kind of like I don't want to say thing that we're fighting all the time, but like almost. I mean, it kind of if we have a higher mind and a lower mind type of thing, or like a more animalistic mind, then it would make sense that it's there for a good reason. But continue. Go ahead.
So I do also, I think I said it, but I want to make sure it's aware that the id is unconscious. You're not conscious that you're thinking.
It's
Oh, I need to do
built
this.
into you.
Yeah, exactly. Your brain is unconsciously thinking of it. And he breaks the id down into two parts. There's the sex instinct, which he calls the eros, and there's the aggressive instinct called the thanatos. I believe that's after the Greek gods, but I'm not positive.
Sounds like
Obviously,
it.
Eros and Thanatos are definitely Greek words, nonetheless. But the Eros and the Thanatos are also, sex and aggressive instincts are also life and deathy. There's another.
Okay.
kinda-
Yeah.
But the life instinct, instinctually, we want to eat, we want to fuck, we want to
Yeah.
do all that kind of shit. Which could be gluttony, lust, all those
Yeah.
things. Whereas the Thanatos, the death instinct, that's our aggression, and that can be violence, that can be wrath, that can be whatever else. But yeah, you're an ass.
Yeah, it makes sense. I comprehend that.
Yeah, Freud. I fucking read his name so weird because it's spelled Freud.
Yeah.
It's Freud.
Freud.
Freud believed that the eros, the life, sex, whatever, was stronger than the thanatos. That way people were more geared towards survival than self-destruction.
Yeah.
I say so much about the id because that's the most important one I want to come back to, but let me explain
Right.
before I
For sure.
keep going. So then we have the ego, and the ego is the part of the psyche that you're conscious of. It's it's the analytical, logical part of your brain that is like, yeah, that it sounds cool to do all that shit, but I'm good on that. Freud used the analogy, or makes the analogy, the id is the horse and the ego is the rider. The rider has to hold in check the primitive and more powerful horse by all available means, be it, fucking skills, technique, logic, and maybe shit, and you get bucked off,
Right. Naturally, sure.
So, I mean, it's pretty self-explanatory. And then there's the superego, which is the moralistic, perfectionist part of our psyche.
The higher mind.
If you will, it's the angel on our shoulder.
Mm-hmm.
The part of us that unconsciously keeps the id in check, especially when you're doing something that is not morally or societally acceptable. And Freud believed that it reflected society's moral values to a certain degree. And a person is sometimes aware of their own morality and ethic. I don't know why the fuck I have that written. I feel like I had more there. But it reflects society's moral values to some degree. So it's sort of... it's shaped as an infant he goes into as well. That your environment around you will shape your superego, your moral foundation. And your moral, it's the angel on your shoulder. So it's telling your ego to pursue moralistic goals rather than just realistic ones or instinctive ones. And it also is the perfectionist part. It wants you to be perfect you. So the superego, like the id, also consists of two parts. The conscious and the ideal self. Conscious, kind of self-explanatory. It's the inner voice, it's what makes you feel guilt when you do something that is wrong.
Mm-hmm.
When you give into those instincts, when you give into the id. Ideal self, I feel kind of self-explanatory too, but it's what you know you can be if you were to live upright and morally.
Yeah.
So, do you have anything to add to any of that you want to ask further about before I...
Okay, no, just let me clarify.
Yeah.
So, ID, ego, and if we say the ego is like in the middle, and
Yes.
then would the super ego be the angel on the shoulder, and then the ID devil?
That's why I use that analogy.
That's pretty much like a good, like, yeah,
The
okay.
ego is the only one you're aware of. The super ego and the id are, you're not conscious of them.
Yeah.
So the ego is essentially your conscious mind.
Okay, yeah, I mean, that's it. I just wanted to make sure I understood that correctly, you know what I'm saying? Like, that makes sense, though. It's like, it's a good way of, like, understanding what would typically be represented or, like, displayed as that devil and angel on your shoulder, you know? You
And now I'm not sure if that's where that idea comes from.
Right.
Or if that predates it or what, because I believe Freud was around the early 1900s.
Like, I think that maybe, like, it could have been, like, lost information or something like that. Like, maybe, you know, he brought it to the masses or whatever, but it could have been...
I'm just saying the concept of the devil and angel on your shoulder, because
okay, yeah, sorry.
I haven't read exactly his literature on it. I've just kind of read different articles about it, essentially.
Yeah. But you never read that he, like, stated it as that.
I never read his exact statements. I read multiple different pages about...
Okay, yeah.
That's
cool.
So, I don't know if he makes that comparison at all, or that analogy.
Right.
Some of the pages kind of alluded to that, but didn't say that explicitly. And I don't know if that maybe predates it with, you know, maybe there was some Shakespearean play where that happened.
Yeah, right. I know what you mean. Yeah, where does that come from? Yeah.
But I'm gonna grab a drink real quick. But I got a question. What do you think? I'm trying to think how to phrase this.
Just lay it on me.
Slade, what is your interpretation of how, like, do you think that this is accurate? Do you think this is false? Because obviously he didn't use analytical data as we normally do for scientific theories and such and studies. So you go ahead.
All right.
What do you think?
I'm trying to think. I mean, because I feel like there's, like, multiple ways of, you know, like, just because someone's explaining something one way and somebody else explains it another way, like, they could be experiencing the same thing but explaining it in a different way because that's, like, how they know how to, or that's what's in their toolbox in order to explain it. Like, they can only put together what they have basically come to understand in the world, you know? So he put it the way he understood it through his, like, training or, you know, studying and whatnot. And, like, I agree that those things are ever present in, like, life, but it's like whether or not you agree with every little thing that they describe.
Yeah, the rough concept of it you agree with.
Yeah.
But the exactitudes you are not sure.
I'm not sure about because I haven't studied myself.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, you can't really be, but the idea that we do have an impulsive, you know, the core concept of it, which I do also agree.
Like,
with.
you gotta be a little bit, like, defective or something's wrong if you feel like, no, I don't experience all three of those type of things. Those things are all just, like, one thing, you know, like, whatever. Like, they're one thing called your friggin' mind, but, like, you know, like, can you conceptually break it down to understand that thing, and that thing, you know? Like, can you, or do you just neglect that altogether and be like, it sounds like you're just describing how a person is, type of thing. But I like the more broken down way of looking at it, the deeper, like what is the nature of the thing. So yeah, I appreciate this man's work, except for I know some people, like, I don't know what they denounce of his work, but some people denounce.
I don't know why he's controversial, but I know that, like, I kind of read that.
Maybe he just got a lot of hype, you know what I'm saying?
I mean, I think, honestly, his work is probably disputed because, as I said, he didn't do actual studies. It was just kind of anecdotal data from, his years of being a psychologist or whatever. So whatever the fuck.
And, like, that method that you mentioned of, like, kind of just letting people freely associate what they would like together and, like, seeing where that will take him and his studies is, like, that's a real interesting approach to it, because I wonder about that too, about essentially, like, I would call that maybe like he's looking at the micro and then trying to apply that to the macro, like he's looking at his subjective, what he's experiencing and being like, well, based off this pool of people, which is still done today, like, so it's like, it's interesting. It's like, you would like to think that the rules that you study in this group of people, this pool of people, apply throughout all of people, but perhaps that could be wrong, right? Like, we could say that. Perhaps it could be wrong.
So with the whole free association thing, essentially the idea of it is you don't interject, as a therapist, instead of trying to give solutions right away. You just kind of let the person continuously...
Don't put your objectivity into them. Let them have their own objectivity, I suppose.
And you don't even necessarily question things or answer if they ask a question, because if you leave it silent long enough, they tend to answer themselves. And you just kind of listen until they're run out of steam, and by the time they do, they normally will have gotten to the root of their problem. But you kind of need somebody else to be there. If you're just talking to yourself, I don't know, but something about having somebody else there, and part of it also is like, making eye contact and expressing emotion. You have to genuinely be listening to what they are saying and, be attentive. You can't just fucking zone the fuck out, but if you listen, you're attentive, and you just kind of let them speak, they will tend to kind of figure out the solution to their own problems. But
yes.
In doing that, he kind of realized these different things, and I believe... so there's a whole other, there's a whole next thing. It's like, I forget the term he uses. It's something like psychosexual, something that kind of helps form your superego's morality. But in general, the superego, as I said, it's formed early in childhood, and it's kind of off of your environment, your society, and all of that. And I feel like the superego... modern times, because of technology and how social media is, it's kind of glorified the, impulses of the id instead, and that sort of even become the superego, and that's not good for society, in my opinion, at least, because we're giving into these, everything is sexualized, everything.
A lot of people would refer to it as like lower vibrational type of stuff, like, do you know what I'm saying?
No, elaborate.
Like lower, like high vibrational would be like all good stuff, but low vibrational is like all bad stuff. So the higher
frequency of vibration is the more morally correct,
right?
Type closer to God, if you will.
Right. So like, it's like
using God.
All this, like, I guess you would say, like, modern, I don't know what you call it, trends and social media and all this different stuff that they have now. Like, I don't want to say that things are bad in and of themselves, but like they're clearly being used to such an extent that they're having like adverse effects on society or the youth, who is then the future of society. So like, I don't know. I think it's just like low vibrational programming that they're putting out there, I guess you would call it, that like, it's like what you're saying, it's getting the youth's super ego to such a point that by the time they're an adult, they really don't have any, like, I don't want to say moral conscience, but like moral compass. Like like their moral compass is just like a little bit like whacked out. Like they don't. It's been spun around too many times.
Yeah, and I feel like as well so one of the two parts of the superego is the ideal self. Well,
Yeah.
people's ideal self now has kind of become, you know, fucking, oh, I'm gonna have a bunch of bitches and a bunch of cars and all
Like
this.
based on an ideal type of thing. Like
Yeah.
ideally, like once I have this harem of women, or once I have all this nice clothes or cars, then stuff will really start clicking for my life. But like that's like a fallacy. Like
Exactly.
there's no higher value to that. Like
It's giving into those instant gratification kind of urges that we all have, which your superego is supposed to
regulate.
Like, yeah, it's supposed to be the opposite, but because of technology and things like Instagram and kind of how, you know, some celebrities glorify these kind of things, well, it doesn't really.
And it's real
There's not the
interesting.
contrast there should be.
It's real interesting that like, you know, like the idea of a free market, right? We don't have to get so into that, but just the idea like that the things aren't bad, like they should be allowed to exist. People should be allowed to like, you know, rich people should be allowed to glorify their jewelry or their cars, whatever the heck they got, but like why is there this like impulsive need to like want that? Or we look at, I guess, idols or successful people and then want to have what they have or be like them, opposed to finding your own path or being like however you would come to be if you didn't idol worship. You know what I mean? Like imagine a life without idol worship. And that's like a thing I tried to talk to some people about in my life, you know who, and they're like, so what, you don't think we should like look up to people? No, looking up to people is okay. Like there's like a reality to the.
But you shouldn't worship them like idols, what you're saying.
Yeah, like there's a reality to like the master apprentice type of vibe, but you know, like the like the way Aristotle was still able to look at Plato and be like, oh, I think that he had some holes in his game, even though he was my master, essentially. Like,
Yeah.
that's a perfect master-student relationship right there. Not where you look at their work and or what they're doing or what they have, and you're like, I need to adopt all of that. I need to be like that. Like that more than likely will lead you to like lose your true self and lose your identity and shit. But
so to try to summarize what I
Yeah.
believe you're saying essentially we're letting ourselves be fueled by envy for what other people have instead of our own, you know, goals and what we look for, what we seek to achieve.
maybe like other than like doing that, other than taking like a second or a minute or a day or a week or whatever the hell you need to like think about what your path is, how you've gotten to the point where you are, and you know, like I guess you would call it some like shadow work, so to speak, where you're like working on the part of yourself that you're not like usually present with, you know? Like you're thinking about your future self, you're thinking about your past self, you're like
But you need to think about your present self.
yeah.
You need to think about how you're going to get your present self to
These places,
this
yes.
supposed future self you have, because so many
That
people
you
be
can
like,
see, but like is it okay, like you have to look at your ideals. Like what is your ideal form of yourself? Is it a true ideal form of yourself, or is there something like, say somebody's going for all those cars, all those girls, all those whatever, and then they get that and they're not happy. Well, they have to reanalyze what their ideal life is, ideal self is, and they'll be forced to, because otherwise they'll be living in an unhappy state. So like no matter what, I think it's kind of like you said with Freud's method, where like people will come to their own conclusion that like they have to. I don't know if it's the right conclusion or not, but I think they'll come to the right conclusion. Like they'll figure it out. Like they'll answer themselves, I guess. Yes.
yeah.
What did you ask me? I don't remember.
to begin with, I don't know. You went on for a while, and I kind of, was just trying to clarify what you were saying so I could keep up.
Yeah.
But, we were talking about how, I believe the ideal self has been corrupted because people naturally, it is it is part of the id.
It's like idol worship. That's what I was got on a tangent about.
If you will, it's part of the id to, you want to have power. You aspire to be an idol that people worship. So those who have such power, they're going to take full advantage of it. And they're going to kind of give into that, which is just going to make it harder for people on the bottom. We need proper...
Like role models? Or
exactly.
What?
We need proper fucking role models.
It's weird, it's like... Why is it so hard to get that? I mean, there are, like, genuine people that are coming up through this internet age now that are really helping people.
But I feel like a lot of them are not as popular as they should be.
Right, they don't get the promo. They don't. They don't get the front page. They don't get the algorithm recognition.
And, I've heard many people speak on it too, because evolutionarily it makes sense. We tend to focus on the negatives of things too. But also, you look at somebody who's fucking got a bunch of money and doing all these ridiculous ass things. So like, oh, that seems fun, like instantaneously. Whereas, one of my biggest goals in life is to be a dad.
Mm-hmm.
And the thought of, it's fucking like 18 years you got to put in, probably more, honestly. Kids ain't
it's like fucking... it's like a contract.
Exactly, and it takes a lot of fucking time, and it's not just a instant gratification type thing. But the joy of raising a fucking kid, I mean,
that's an interesting idea.
Long-term thing.
Yeah, that's the interesting idea right there. That is like, it's even hard in my own life implementing like new habits with the idea of that in mind, that like it's for the long term. Like, you're not going to get immediate results. You're going to have to wait a bit before even noticing a result or something like that. Like, it's literally going to take, I don't know, like time depending on whatever it is that you're trying to do. And like, I don't know, go back to your point.
Well, yeah, but that's, you get that, you get a more fulfilling sense of accomplishment once you do reach that.
Right.
Instead of that instant gratification. Delayed gratification is a lot fucking better. The superego is Freud even describes it as like the purveyor of rewards, but also of punishment. And rewards, that's that feeling of satisfaction. Punishment is shame, guilt, if you give into your impulsive things. And that's why, I've seen plenty of memes of like, the dude, guys, after masturbating or whatever, and it's just like super depressed, like, you seen those fucking memes I'm talking about? Yeah, it's like, yes, because you feel that sense of guilt. You know what you did is fucking wrong, but a lot of the time you don't want to admit it to yourself. And over time, you're just digging yourself deeper in that hole. And especially in a society where it's, so advertised. Fucking be promiscuous, fuck monogamy, all that bullshit. Completely disagree with.
And like the accessibility to explicit shit now is like, bruh, it's right at your fingertips. Like, kidding me? That's crazy. Like, and then, like, kids are getting their smartphones at like first grade or younger now.
Yeah,
like,
which is ridiculous.
It's just a whole new territory that we've never, like, we're literally branching into uncharted territory all the time, like younger and younger. Like, I don't know, thoughts on parents that give their kids like the phone or the tablet all the time.
Fucked. I think you need to be more attentive as a parent,
it's
especially wild. Like, dude, you see fucking some parents give their toddler a fucking tablet and just go. It's like, yeah, your kid's gonna
get
stream.
Out of my hair.
Yeah, exactly. Your kid's gonna stream. Your kid's gonna whine. But that's part of being a fucking parent, dude. You have to. You have to do that shit so you make a proper fucking member of society instead of somebody who's just
right. And they don't realize like the value, like the same way I was just describing, like where it can be hard to understand this, but you have to understand it, that like there is value in not doing that, or like not giving that to your kid, disciplining your kid, or taking care of your kid, or being attentive to your kid.
And
so,
it's a lot more difficult to do that.
right, like it's gonna be literally more physically, mentally demanding, yes, but like the kid will love you, respect you, like look at you for
And
they'll confide in you, like
right.
the kid you want, and that's what you want long term, but parents will be like the literally like parents will be like, no, because I'm your parent, that all comes with that. Not like I have to do A, B, and C and put in the work in order to get those things from you. Like, just because I'm your parent, those things will be there. And it's like, that's not necessarily true. Like, you got to be attentive to your kid. Otherwise, like, I've seen it in my own freaking life, man, with, whoever, where it's like, if the parent ain't there, bro, all the way, like then like if they're 1 foot in, 1 foot out, or mostly out and only sometimes in, then like it really does like do a pretty good amount of damage, like long term. Like it doesn't give the proper impression of your parents to you, and like
Because you don't really know them. They're just kind of, they gave birth to me and then they supplied my tablets and all my
yeah.
fucking toy electronics and shit. That's all they do for you.
Yeah,
really.
or like they gave me what I want all the time, type of thing, and
Yeah.
like that ain't good neither. Like
Yeah, people need to learn to say no to their kids. I hate when I'm in public and there's like kids who's like, dude, discipline your fucking kid. Okay, you need to. You are the person to teach them. I'm sorry to interrupt, but you're the
right,
person
yeah.
to teach them what is societally acceptable. Back to the superego. Freud talks about it being developed in your early childhood and such. Yeah, and that's by your parents, predominantly by, this is how you're supposed to act in society.
mm-hmm.
You're not supposed to just be on your tablet screaming and whatever. And that's a lot of the reason, if your kid's gonna fucking scream, well, let them scream. You don't just give them the tablet to shut them up, and then they just, you keep that cycle of giving them what they want, and you develop that same shit of instant gratification.
Yeah, and it's also like I've noticed this too, and it's so weird, like a conditional thing. Like the kid doesn't behave for the right reasons. They behave because they know that if they act like a good boy for a little bit, then they're gonna get rewarded, or they get what they want, or whatever. Like it's a weird thing where it becomes contractual like that. Like, oh, I'm gonna get like extra time on the game, or I'm gonna get extra dessert or whatever, literally.
Now, some respect, I believe that's kind of how it should be. You got to know there's contractual things, but
no, you're
I
right.
get what you're saying of it's sort of like they put on an act, I guess, then they break that when they're at home and they be a little asshole.
Yeah, or not only that, but like it's about the material or like the subject matter of like what they're letting their kids have more of, like just like the things that you're giving them maybe shouldn't be, like I don't know, like staying up later on the game, or like whatever, like eating crappier foods or whatever it is, that being like, I don't know what it is, because at the end of the day, if they have internet access through computer, phone, whatever,
I don't think kids should have unlimited internet access.
That's what I'm saying. Like that's kind of where the line is like crossed or whatever.
You
like
pull up.
Oh
so
yeah.
You see a bit closer to the mic. Pull your chair closer to you.
If they just have like, okay, like let's say like how it was for me and you growing up. Like, did you have? I remember you had a computer room. I had a computer room for most of my childhood. Like, was that pretty much your access to the computer?
Yeah, it was.
Or the internet?
I mean, until like 8th grade-ish,
Mm-hmm.
when I got my first phone. But like, yeah, it was, the computer was in a shared room that was, you didn't have access to the internet in a closed fucking room or whatever. And then once I did, it was like fucked. There it all.
Yeah.
And I mean, I got my first like smartphone. Have I told you the story? I was walking home from school, I believe, with fucking Jay, and it was just, there was a phone on the fucking ground, and I was like, oh shit, what is this? And I turned it on, it turned on. I took the SIM card out, threw it over the fence next to us. You remember the fucking
Yeah.
school?
Yeah.
I went home, fucking reset it, and got my parents to set it up. That was my first smartphone. Before that, they'd only trust me with like flip phones and shit.
Wow.
Which, I kind of wish I didn't find it in retrospect now, because Unfettered access to the internet at that age is not good.
It was like a dude. That's crazy. It's like a little like, bro. It's so like weird. Like, okay, I have to put my thoughts into words. So it's like, you know, whoever put phones out there knew that, like, bro, there's no way we're gonna be able to regulate these like smartphones. Like the youth, like these are gonna do damage to the youth, bro. And then like,
I don't think they even necessarily considered that. I mean,
well,
maybe some people did
I'm
at
thinking,
some point.
okay, I'm thinking like the way that the heads of it are thinking like, okay, like clearly there's like negative side effects in the future to this, but it's up to them how they regulate them. It's up to them how they regulate themselves on it, which is true. But like, okay, clearly it's gonna get away to a point where like they're so accessible that like, you know, I guess people are dropping them or whatever. Like obviously they're not doing it on purpose, but like that kid dropped his or whoever dropped theirs that you right. So like it was a regular thing, boom, fell out of your pocket. And then like I guess regular thing meaning it was normalized to have smartphones at that point, like
Kind of.
2013, 14. Yeah. And like boom, you find this like thing and it's actually a portal. It's literally a portal, bro, into this other dimension. Like it's so trippy. Like, it's trippy. That's how I'm thinking about it. Like
giving too much negative connotation, whatever the fuck, to the original creators. I believe you made it. The people who originally made it, Steve Jobs or whatever. I think the iPhone was the first smartphone. I could be wrong.
Yeah, like the first one with like the touch screen. Yeah,
all that shit. I believe the thoughts was, well, you have access to all this information. You could do research, all this shit. They didn't think they're gonna be on fucking Pornhub and on TikTok and on fucking rotting their fucking brains, destroying their attention spans, and
I'm more inclined to believe that like maybe not the whole board, but somebody understood that this would be like one of the most destructive things to society. Like I think that somebody would foresee that.
The first couple of years of it, I don't think that was necessarily even a thought, because you get so in your head about, here's all the positives of what I'm gonna do.
Yeah.
But then once you kind of get down and you're doing it, it's like, oh yeah, I didn't really consider this negative.
I'm open to that. I'm open to that like hypothesis of
I don't like just assuming malice intent on people personally. I like to assume the best, I guess. Even though people
I do, but not out of a corporation, like a corporate entity like as big as Apple or anybody like that. Like then like you're as good as like a I don't know, an enemy to me. Like if you're a corporate like like I don't know what to call it, like if you got corporate like
you're a corporate fat cat.
Yeah, like if you're a corporate like I don't want to say like shill or whatever, but like
you're a corporate shill is something different than I feel like what you're trying to say.
If you're like a big like suit in a corporation, I know you're still just a dude or a woman, but like that doesn't remove you from like being a part of something that is like overall more net negative than net positive, I would say, in terms of the effects that your products are having on people. But at the same time, I don't know, because if you ask people if they like having their iPhone, they'd probably all tell you yeah. So it's like
you could make the argument too that it's like you don't necessarily always look at the negatives. You look at the positives.
That's what I'm saying. I agree that like many of them could have thought about.
I think nowadays people do tend to look at the negatives more because they contrast it. On Instagram, everyone only shows positives. To kind of bring it back, but I feel like when you, especially in terms of if we're talking successful ass people, they don't necessarily consider all the negatives. You kind of look at the positives, and you have to be.
That's a part of the destructive like nature of those people is like their failure to look at that.
Yeah. I make that argument, bro. George Lucas made that argument. It's kind of like the Jedi got too in their own ass, and they became, so full of themselves, believing what they were doing was righteous when some of what they were doing was completely wrong. They were abducting fucking children, all that kind of shit.
I'll give you
understand
one
it, but-
more weird one that I made this connection on my own, and you're gonna be like, maybe you're full of gas or whatever, but like, bro, blowing hot air. But think about the Apple logo with the bite from the fruit. And then think about the think
okay,
about
that's
the sin.
Yeah, everyone makes that.
It's so
that's
weird.
Like the most fucking cliche conspiracy.
But it's
theory
so
about
weird.
Apple.
It's so like right in your face. It's like
I think it's
That's
just
weird.
coincidental because you get a nice snappy name. Part of like I'm trying to make businesses and shit. That's one of the things.
I know
wanna
what you
do.
mean.
You want to have a simple one word memorizable name, and then with a logo. Well, your name is fucking Apple. If you just use the default.
But was
Apple,
it esoteric in nature, in your opinion? Like, did they do it with
define
the
esoteric? I hear the word. and-
like meaning like you could make like if you're studied like if you're thinking about the story of Adam and Eve, then you would make the connection like, oh, that's the forbidden fruit that's bitten out of.
Yeah, but I don't think that was the conclusion made when they were fucking doing it. And I mean, I guess you could make the argument some people do of like, you know, if you are evil, people like to kind of they like to show it and they like to show their hand without outright saying it. They get cocky, and that's how a lot of serial killers actually get caught and shit.
That's
because
what I'm
they get very
saying.
full of
It's
themselves.
like that. It's like that, I think.
But in this case, it's like it's a simple fucking. You want a nice snappy name. You know, Windows is kind of snappy too, but like, you don't just want a default Apple.
Oh, there's a conspiracy with
They-
them too. I forget what the hell Windows is.
Bill
but...
Gates is fucked. That's a whole other thing we could get into. But
Oh yeah.
Like-
I'm still rocking this product.
you know,
though.
you have fucking. You get some motherfuckers making a logo, and it's like, okay, let's not just use a regular ass red apple. Let's get something sleek. We're a tech company, so you know, black and white or silver, whatever. I don't know what the fuck the first Apple logo was.
I think white.
And to make it more distinct of just a fucking, because it would just be like a circle with a stem. You put a bite in it. It makes it more distinguished. It makes it more recognizable. Simplicity and recognizability, especially off of just a silhouette, is like the key to character design and other like. I know it predominantly because, you know, studying shit for writing character design and all that. If you have a unique silhouette, but there's not a bunch of moving parts, like, that's why the Transformer movies are ass, you know, fucking... Dude, you see the fucking Transformer, they got so many moving parts, and it's, like, all fucked. And if you saw a silhouette of one, it's like, I don't know which one that is.
Yeah.
You see a silhouette of fucking Darth Vader, well, you'd know who the fuck that is. And that's because it's good character design. It's simple. There's not a... It's not a clusterfuck to the eyes. And that's what you want to do with logos as well. If even more so, you want it more simple than that. So I don't think there is we're a Satanist company, so we're gonna show the bitten apple because we're gonna be the fall of man. I feel like that could be a coincidence. If you're extremely religious, you could make the argument maybe Steve Jobs was another interpretation of Satan. Maybe he was a demon. Who fucking knows?
I just think that it's no coincidence that they're like the dominant like cell like whatever you call that like phone provider. Maybe they're not, but like
I mean,
they're
Apple's-
huge.
Yeah, I think Apple's bigger than fucking
Like maybe it's
shit.
like a 5% like that they have on the
I
phone
feel like it's
thing.
probably like 60-40.
Something
Apple,
like
Android
that.
type
Yeah.
shit.
So like just the fact that they're that big and like with I guess the potentiality of that esoteric connection, like why does it just coincidentally look like that? Like
Like, we could make a bunch of conspiracy theories too. You could also
no,
talk about
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like logos
Yeah.
go on for days.
But not even just logo. I'm talking about with Apple specifically, especially with why they're a bit bigger, is because they're much simpler to use. They're not as fucked. They're a lot more.
Well, the problem is that the government allows patents, so that therefore like Apple can just be like nobody can copy this technology.
Well,
Nobody
there's
can
certain
copy
things
this.
you can't patent, but
But like people should be able to make their version of an iPhone and then like.
I mean they can look
there
at what
should-
you just fucking
But
showed me.
but
Or do you have an iPhone?
no, I don't. But
Okay.
because but they can't replicate exactly what Apple does because of like the government protects them.
Well, I'm personally for copywriting things. I don't think people should be able to steal our name or our logo or anything.
They should be able to, but the thing is, they won't be the true one. So whoever does it the best will prevail.
Well, yeah, and obviously, but
So I say fuck all that shit.
well, yes and no, because what if another company blows up under the name Apple? They have
No, I get it.
So-
Like say like we're the many parallels, bro, and we end up getting like 10K, and then like somebody with like I don't know 100K subscribers vacates their channel, and then they give this new podcast people one, and then they want to be the many parallels, and then because they were able to purchase the vacant channel, it's like they automatically have a much bigger reach and.
well, we already have the channel, so.
But do you know what I'm saying? Like they would be like the more prominent, the many parallels.
One thing you should do, at least if you're trying to start something like this, is do your research and see, hey, is there already something else named this that has some sort of following? I remember
but
doing that
what
in,
if
like,
they- what if
middle
they-
school
what
when
if
we were
these-
trying to start bands.
Right. I'm saying I agree with that. But what if these people don't have that value and they're like, they thought of the many parallels too. And then they're like, like, I'm just going to take it because it's a free market. And like, the only way we would be able to prevail over them is because of the traction they're generating, people would run into us and realize that we're better and then come to us. Or like, I don't know, we would just not prevail because they would have gotten the upper hand on us and then we'd have to start over. So like I don't know. It's like I agree that like there is utility to patents and copyright, all this stuff,
But that's one thing though, is like
I could see it without it too. I don't know.
I don't know the exactitudes of Apple and shit, but I mean you can't copyright the word Apple necessarily. You can't copyright that, but
Maybe if you want to start
business-
if you want to start like a technology company,
'cause I
you
know
couldn't.
You can't have a like you couldn't get Apple LLC or some shit. You couldn't do that, unless they're Apple Technology or some shit or
Some
Macintosh
weird, yeah.
even. But
Oh, that'd be weird.
because the original computers I had were called Macintoshes, so
Bro, you know that those bitches were out in like the 1970s, bro?
I did not know they were that old. What the fuck?
Like I watched a video when they first released them into like I forget if it was Best Buy all the way back then or some kind of equivalent, but it was literally like 1979 or 8 where they were like they had the first model of a Macintosh like out on display for like the richest fuckers to go
Yeah.
buy, and I'm like it looked like some big old hunk of fucking crap, and I'm like that's crazy, bro. Like the 70s, bro. Like I wonder if they had like, cause my conspiracy ass brain is like they have shit 30 years ahead. So like, that means that whatever was available in like the 2000s or whatever, they might have had access to. But
what do you? Who is they?
okay,
First
so
Macintosh actually came out in '84.
okay,
I just looked it up.
84. So maybe it was like I don't know, like a prototype or something. But I do remember it being like 70 some shit, or the information was.
I mean, were you sure it was
title.
at a store or was it?
That's what I'm saying.
A display thing at Apple, because I'm sure
Yeah.
they probably had functional things. I mean, they had computers in the '60s, but they took up like an entire fucking room.
Right,
Like, they-
right. This was like the first like condensed one probably or whatever.
Yeah.
But I'm like, that's crazy. Like, yeah, I don't know, bro. I'm saying though, like, like there's a lot of theories that there was advanced civilizations, etc. Even though I don't know if you like that or not. Like, I think you're like, no, like they've explained how they built a lot of stuff now and shit like that. But like, I'm willing to believe that there was other eras of human beings or whatever like that we may have had to restart, reset, or like things wiped us out and shit. And like, there's lost information out there, but I believe that like certain lines of people or people have this like lost information, and like it only gets through to our society as like they willingly put it through. Like, I don't think it's like, I don't know, like scientists or something, or like groundbreaking research that's like coming out with these like there are discoveries that are brand new, trust me, but like I think that somebody also puts out stuff, like they open the gates to certain technologies or waves of technologies, but maybe that's just bullshit. Maybe it's like natural development. I don't know.
So I'm very confused on what you're saying exactly.
Like there's keepers of like sacred knowledge, I believe. Like I don't have any proof for that, but I believe that people have the knowledge and then they like
What knowledge exactly?
like okay, as we get more advanced, like that knowledge.
Well, I mean, it's said
We as like
like
the
the military is
public.
usually like I think 10 or 20 years ahead of like citizens in terms of
Yeah.
what access to technology they have, especially because they have
And that's
way
what
higher
I'm
budget
that's what I'm
things.
saying. And I've like watched like briefings or like talks or I don't know what they're called, like conferences of like ex whoever military motherfucker and like ex this dude, ex that guy, and they're like trying to disclose that they're like this many years ahead of us, but the thing is that no one's like consistent with it. Like 20 years, 30 years. Well, how advanced are they ahead of us? Like I feel like this is just what people that are
But
there.
what does that even mean to be, advanced
That's what
that
I'm
far ahead of us?
saying.
Especially
That's
because
what
who
I'm
knows
saying.
where the consumer market is going to go in that amount of time, and who knows if it's going to surpass that in before 10 years ahead. So you can't even necessarily how do you measure that?
That's what I'm saying. Like I don't know what is allowing them to either calculate that it's that far ahead or whatever. Like you said, how do you measure it? So it's like maybe that's what was disclosed to them or whatever. But like at the end of the day, bro, I don't know if like the development of technology itself is orchestrated or organic. Like, and I guess you can make the claim that like orchestrated can be organic because it's like what people are willing to do.
Yeah,
But
I mean, to have an orchestra, you got to have a conductor, bro.
right. But
And that conductor could just be organically.
what if the conductor doesn't have the best interest though, and then like the orchestra doesn't play good
and that's
music?
a fair argument that you can make, but I mean, come back.
But
to
you
the
don't
idea
know
of
if they're good or not, I guess. But yeah,
you don't, and that's kind of what's up with the free market, and it's up to the consumer to kind of decide with their dollar
Yeah.
to support, and that's why there's companies like Rumble and shit and other things trying to make a parallel economy because they believe
Pornhub. No, I'm
no,
kidding.
there's already enough alternatives to that. You got X Hamster.
No, yeah, it's crazy that people actually use Pornhub as like an alternative to like YouTube or like something
do?
like yeah, like people will
I did
like
not know that.
people will upload like music videos to there or
I mean,
like
I remember
different stuff
there's
like
a big
that.
thing of like King 810. I don't know if you ever heard of them.
I don't think
I like a few songs about them. They're pretty good. But they uploaded like a music video exclusively to Pornhub forever ago.
like in the last 5 years or no.
Yeah, within the last 5 years.
Yeah, like that's what I'm saying. Like it's become like a thing like that where it's like a promo type of thing where it's like I don't know what type of porn you had to be watching for it to get recommended to
Yeah,
you,
right.
but like somehow it, like these things will end up getting hundreds of thousands of views sometimes. So it's like good for them, bro.
Well, I think one of the reasons King 810 did it was because it was like a not safe for work video or some shit like that. But like
Yeah,
I hadn't heard of the band before that, and then I was like, oh, what the fuck? And then I went and listened to some of their other music, and I was like, oh, this is actually pretty good.
yeah.
So
It was a good promo in that case.
Yeah,
Yeah,
especially
yeah.
because I think they were one of the first. I mean, one of the first bands in the scene that I'm a part of, at least, that did it. So
Yeah. I never heard about like bands doing it, but it makes total sense that they would if like rappers and other people. I mean, I've seen like YouTubers too, like have like they'll start uploading their content to Pornhub because they got kicked off of YouTube, and it's like
go to Rumble instead.
it's so weird.
That's
Like
an actual. It's like people go to Rumble and shit looking for things like that. You don't go to Pornhub looking for
content.
yeah. I mean,
like
I've seen
like
plenty
that.
of like memes that were just like screenshots from Pornhub that were like, kid gets fucked by like 700-meter quick scope or some shit, whatever the fuck it might
Yeah.
be. Dumb shit like that, but
Yeah, it's a different era, bro. I don't know. Like, whatever, I guess, will make you money. I don't know what Pornhub is paying off of ad revenue, but maybe it's equivalent in
But I think it's detrimental to society because then it's like you go to watch your videos on Pornhub, I guess, from fucking say Mr. Beast, and then it's like, oh shit, gangbang. Oh, I'm gonna check that out. And then you go down that rabbit hole and it fucks you up. I don't think
it's
Mr.
kind of
Beast
like
can upload to Pornhub, but
it's kind of like having a bunch of massage parlors next to like a cafe.
More like having a bunch of brothels next to it.
Well, that's
the
what I
only
meant.
restaurant in town.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I meant.
Not a good
like not massage parlor, but like
a Thai massage parlor.
Yeah, the ones where they like
yeah
do the good shit.
Yeah.
But anyway,
you say brothel, but yeah, and that's why make sure. It's just this will be on YouTube, but make sure to share it on Rumble and shit. Because I would rather that be successful because it shares more of my.
Well, it's weird with like YouTube because like I thought about this for a long time. Ever since like I think like 2017 or 16, I was watching like iDubbbz, you remember him being relevant back then? Like,
I just remember him with the Tana Mongoose thing.
Oh, okay, yeah. And then H3, I don't know if you remember him at all, but he
got in some shit not too long ago with Crowder, and he was just made an ass of himself, at least in my
H3
opinion.
did?
Yeah.
Yeah, because like I agree now that I'm like older and I understand like I don't know, in my opinion, like values a little bit more, principles, like he's not that type of individual that has like I don't know, traditional values or like typically like stuff like that. So like he's more like I don't know what you would call like modern liberal or whatever.
Yeah.
So like therefore he made really funny fucking content, which was great, but then he started getting into podcasting in like I don't know what year, like around that time and shit, and like I started realizing like, oh yeah, I don't really vibe with like his like stances on a lot of stuff, and like his funny content was more or less like a thing of the past at that point. So it was like I stopped watching him and shit like that.
Was it like he just his sense of humor changed, or was it that he kind of was clinging to the past and what used to be funny and it wasn't anymore? It was outdated.
The podcast just took over in terms of his main thing that he did. So
his main content that he created.
Yeah. So and on top of that, he started a merch line, which like I get that they put a lot of work into it, like in terms of there was a lot of abstract designs and crap like that. Like it was cool, but like nothing I wanted or would rock type of thing. But like they did like some pretty cool merch and stuff. So I know that was like a big thing. It's called like Teddy Fresh or something like that. Teddy Fresh. Yeah, it was just like a little teddy bear.
Not gonna lie, awful name, but that's
yeah,
my thoughts.
Yeah, and why? How do we get to these YouTubers? What are we talking about?
We were talking about just in general, parallel economy and all that shit.
Oh, I remember that they started getting like regulated and stuff like that, like these YouTubers back then, and I'm like, dude, like, how long is it gonna be before like they start coming down on like, real stupid stuff like saying like gay or saying
and that's
whatever, and it's like started to happen now.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
it's crazy.
I think Steven Crowder's been demonetized for like 5 years now, or some shit like that. It's been a fucking while, and he talks all the time about that kind of shit. Their channel gets fucking suspended on YouTube all the time for, like, one time they got suspended for literally reading shit off of the CDC's website about COVID that was a year old and no longer
relevant.
On what the CDC was saying. So they revoked it or whatever for spreading misinformation and all that shit.
Right.
I've even seen things in court, like fucking front of the Senate and shit, I think it was. They were talking about YouTube censorship and how it's supposed to be, a town square. They get certain tax breaks, and like you can't sue YouTube if somebody were to release a video on there inciting violence and that caused something. YouTube isn't technically responsible for that because they're not a publisher. But with how much censoring they are, they're kind of overstepping that line. Mm-hmm. So at what point are they encroaching upon the First Amendment, and should they lose those privileges? and we even talked about, they kind of leave the people that were talking at the court hearing or whatever the fuck were talking about how a lot of their terms are very loosely set or loosely written, and they even made a term. I think it was actually Ted Cruz who said it. They have the Crowder rule, where something will happen. It's usually Steven Crowder because he's one of the like top conservative podcasters, and he'll say some shit, and they'll just be like, yeah, actually, this violates our rule that is just now put into writing and shit, and then ban them. And they do that with a lot of people with views that don't fit their narrative.
Yeah.
And that's all fucked. But that's why we're building people are trying to build a parallel economy and shit, and that comes back to having free market, voting with your dollar, and if Apple really is a satanic organization, we will not support them.
Yeah, no, like it'll be a new brand that comes out, but I don't know who.
But like I understand the idea of like censoring shit like pornography. I don't think that should be up there and shit. And there should be certain things where it's like, oh, kids can't watch this or whatever. That there needs to be some sort of moderation, but you know, at a certain point, it's like just because you disagree with it, you shouldn't censor it. But if they're actively inciting violence, if they're doxing people, if you know, there's an argument to be made with explicit content. I don't think it should be allowed on shit, and I think you should have to do some sort of identification, like ID verification or some shit to go on porn websites or whatever. Because it's too easy for kids to get on that shit.
I swear, like back in the day, like it kind of was like that with some of those websites.
It was just enter your date of birth, but you know how easy it was to lie.
Yeah. But like, yeah, I think that was always the glory of Pornhub, was that like it was just so like easy to get on there, bro. But yeah.
I mean, dude, it was always fucking easy to get on that shit. Like,
yeah, it was cool.
But it wasn't cool.
No, I know.
Very like
detrimental at the time, you think.
Yeah, you think the school is so easy.
You're like, bro, whoa, like yeah, there's cheeks everywhere, like. But yeah, you don't like. I don't know. Nobody like. There's literally no like forewarning about that at all in society, bro. Like here's a device that will give you access to. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh my god, unlimited crap.
Now we could go into some of the other shit, but it's kind of unrelated to the topic, I guess.
Yeah.
So to kind of bring it back, I guess I think that you know, giving kids a phone, all that shit. We have too much access to shit, and it's because it's not regulated like that, especially things like pornography. It's so easy for kids to get access to. Well, it's that's where the parents need to kind of instill some moral value, and they need to keep check on their fucking kids.
Right.
Because like, no offense to my parents, I doubt they'll fucking watch this even, but like, I was kind of raised by Xbox and the internet, predominantly fucking Xbox and fucking Destiny. When that shit came out, it was like I was my life for like years, bro, and it's fucked.
That's how Call of Duty was for me, for sure,
yeah.
for sure.
So that it was like it led me down a path of extreme fucking depression, and it was not fun, and I didn't realize. It's because I wasn't doing anything with my life. I wasn't developing skills. I was just, you know, fucking trying to run all the raids one week, and trying to manage all my 3 guardians at top light, and it, you know, my priorities weren't in check because I wasn't geared in like, this is what you should focus on. And I don't blame my parents at all. I mean, I was the youngest of fucking, my mom had 4. And my dad also had 4, but like they had 2 kids each apart. My dad, he worked all fucking week, you know, from like 4 a.m. to 4 p.m. He came home, he'd nap, and like, I feel like that also kind of led towards my depression because I saw he's out doing this. He's out providing for our family. And look at, we had like the nicest house in Cudahy. Don't mean to be offensive to people, like, dude, our house is fucking giant compared to most people there.
It's a nice crib, man. Yeah, I like going over there. Yeah.
Well, I'm not trying to be disrespectful, but like, at least in terms of size and shit. We had like the biggest fucking house, and
It was good.
I didn't really realize, it's because my dad is putting in all this work because I didn't see that as a kid.
Yeah.
He was at work and then he'd come home, nap, eat dinner, go to bed, and then it's like the weekends. Well, he's out doing shit with, my mom or his friends and shit because that's his free time, whatever.
Right.
I didn't have an interest in sports or anything, so it's like there wasn't really things for him to actively do with me. And I feel like that, led me towards shit, especially with technology advancing. I got an Xbox 360, and well,
You fell in love.
yeah, it's like it's all downhill from there.
Yeah, like, okay, like, I was gonna mention, recently at work, dude, a friend, like, an old childhood, like, probably one of my first best friends, like, we went to daycare together and, like, elementary school, everything, bro. You know this individual, and
Yeah, I don't know what the fuck they are off the top of my head.
I know, but you would know the name.
Is it a lady or is it
No,
a
it's a
man?
dude.
It's a
And
girl.
I grew up with him, and like all throughout elementary, bro, everything. His parents kept him
Sheltered?
no
No.
involved in everything. Like he was in taekwondo for from however young we were, like youngest you can join to like getting his black belt and stuff. Always doing that, like it was a major discipline for him, on top of baseball, on top of football, on top of basketball. And then at a
I
certain
wonder who the fuck this is because it's like the people I'm thinking of, I went to elementary school with, or at least one of them. So I'm like,
at a certain age, what's it called? At a certain age, he like stopped.
I know the name, but I don't know the face.
Okay, so you know the name. All right. At a certain age, like he started condensing down like what he did, refining his practices, but he became more and more like skilled in those practices, which eventually got him, scholarships, et cetera, et cetera. He never went pro with any of the sports, but like he most definitely could teach any of them, as well as like he probably had a lot of fun, met a lot of people, did a lot of things, acquired a lot of like skills and people skills and communicating and stuff like this while he was doing all of this stuff. And like I remember thinking as a youngin', like, man, how did his parents like have him doing like so much? And I remember other people making that same kind of like comment, like his parents just got him so like busy all the time. It's crazy. But like maybe you don't need to go that hard. That's a very like disciplined parenting right there, like very like involved, super involved. But
I
like,
feel like that's what
but
I
it's
aspire to
great.
be as a
It is
parent.
great. Yeah,
like,
it's like it's awesome. It's like
I don't know, dude. I don't think I've even really met him, to be honest, but I know the name and shit. And he, what's he doing now? I assume he's off doing great fucking things.
he's a corrections officer.
What the fuck is that exactly?
Where you work with like he's a juvenile corrections officer, I believe. So a regular corrections officer is like the cop that works in the jail, like a jail cop.
Yeah.
So he's like doing that for juveniles. So and his goal is to eventually be in the Secret Service apparently. So that's pretty dope.
Yeah,
like
that's badass.
dude's like yeah, like I always knew he was gonna like go hard in whatever he did. I didn't think that he was gonna shoot for wanted to be in the Secret Service, but that's pretty dope. And I'm like, I was talking to his pops, and I'm like, dude, that's crazy. Like I'm just here moving light bulbs around and stuff. Like that's where I ended up and stuff. Like no, like it is what it is. I don't dislike my path, but like that's awesome that he's doing that type of thing.
And that's
yeah.
why you need to establish discipline and shit in your kids instead of just
like he was never like everybody, like even the kids that played sports, like me, I was into football for a little bit, into basketball for a lot of bit, and even then, like the kids that did that, we all were like at a young age, we were all gamers too, at least a little bit. We loved playing the game. He was like not like that. This individual was like not into games at all because he had no time because he was doing real world shit. So like, not that playing sports or stuff like that is always applicable to the real world, but like, bro, there are a lot of like micro things in sports that you can draw parallels to like the real world.
And that's why things like that are so important because it helps you. I mean, really establishing discipline and well, I need to. I don't know about football, but
there are
like,
rules to follow.
Yeah, there's rules to follow. And then also you'd have to keep your grades up to do it for school and shit, because or else you get kicked off the team or whatever.
Yep. I
don't
that.
think for football necessarily, but I know for like wrestling, it's just like, oh, you got to make sure you keep weight. Like there's different things in different disciplines you learn, and it doesn't necessarily matter how you learn to discipline yourself, but you need to learn that at a young age. Where I feel like I personally didn't, so now it's a struggle as an adult to try to.
You gotta build a new habit. Yeah,
exactly, and to try to fucking find the pieces to even build them back up.
Right. And I feel this too though, because I have both, like I have like the happy medium between the you and the him, where like I did do sports, I was like pretty social, but then like basically at 13, 14 years old, I got obsessed with Call of Duty and became like morbidly depressed at the same time. So it was like a perfect storm of like sucking me into that lifestyle, that world, that shit, and then like
getting a kill, or especially something like a quad, that's a good dopamine thing.
Yeah, right and there. Like not only that, like it was crazy because I would argue that like I still have never felt like a friendship like I felt with the people that I used to play with back then, which is like fucking wild to say. Like I've never felt like, I'm just talking about like, obviously there's a different element to like the real friendships I've had over the past like 7 years or whatever, like because they're real people that I can like physically dap up or hug or whatever.
No, I get what you're saying. Like some of my best friends
like
lived in other countries.
Yeah, exactly, Canada and shit. Yes, and like
I had a friend who lived in fucking where the fuck was it? The Netherlands. That was like my homie for
like,
the longest time.
Bro, one like for us it was like a dude in Illinois, a dude in the Dominican Republic, a dude in Canada, a dude like in Texas, and like we all just like would link up, do like a 6-man. There was other kids too that were like less prominent members of the group and shit, and like the getting online, get lobbying up, everybody like recording, having their own capture devices and stuff.
Like part of that is just doing an activity with somebody, especially when you when you have a shared goal.
Yeah,
when you
the
have
goal.
A shared,
we were trying to hit clips, man.
Yeah,
all
and
day.
You also have shared, where you need to discipline yourself, where you have your moral guidelines set up.
Yep.
Don't be fucking dog shit, dude. You gotta don't be negative, bro. You gotta have good KD.
Right. Or like back then, a big thing was if you wanted to hang with people was like show them your best clip or whatever. Like if you hit like a certain standard of a clip, then you could like join these people in their 6-man and shit. And like that was like, I mean, montage clips and like trying to just up what your best clip was like the fucking crack of the time for us. And like I just don't think I ever had like a better time than when I was getting on there every day before I started working a part-time job at the time. And like that was like age 14 to like 16, because at 16 I started working, and that's when like video games were less prominent for me because I was just trying to work and have a little bit of a social life as well. But like I still played video games to the extent where like we were playing zombies at the time. Like after I got off of Call of Duty or off of trick shotting and stuff, like I got into zombies really heavy, and Fortnite a little bit then when it became relevant at the end of school. And then like I fell off of gaming a little bit because I was like trying to get back into the real world. What are my real world interests and shit like that, like what would I like my physical reality to be, not what do I want to like I cannot go into a simulated like reality, aka a video game, for more than like a fucking hour, if not like 45 minutes, unless I'm playing a game of zombies where I'm real committed.
Yeah.
You know? Like, I just can't do it. I'm like, bro, like, I gotta figure out my adventure, like that sense of adventure. I gotta figure like out that in real life. And like, right now, I don't know really what it is that's doing that for me, but like, besides studying the card market, which doesn't really give me adventure, but it's like I'm feeding off the knowledge, like learning about that a lot. Like there's like so much like stuff that you could study and get into with like cards itself and shit, cards themselves. But yeah, bro, I don't know. What are we talking about?
So I feel like very detrimental thing, and we should probably wrap up kind of soon.
Yeah.
Going for an hour.
Put a cherry on top, bro.
But one reason I feel is very detrimental, especially to me, is like I was sort of an outcast and shit in elementary school and stuff because I didn't really play sports. I didn't really do that kind of shit. So then when I got an Xbox and wow, I found a clan or whatever in Destiny that I'd raid with and shit and all that, it was like I finally had that sense of belonging.
Right.
And
exactly.
I feel like that happens to a lot of people. Whether it be some random Discord group they join or some subreddit, whatever the fuck it might be.
Yep.
But it's not, and it can be sometimes, but it's usually not actually beneficial to your real life.
Yeah.
Especially when you're that young and you fall into those little.
Yeah,
communities.
or like what happens naturally, like you all grow up or whatever, and life takes its path, and like if not all at one time, one by one, you start dropping off, and then like, well, then you feel like, oh, I have no friends again or whatever, like, or I don't have anybody to chill with, type of thing.
It's been so long since you did that you don't really have the skills to start anew, and I mean that's a big problem for me now too. Is I didn't really have the experience as a kid making friendships in person with people, and I mean, I did it online kind of, but it's easy when you have a shared goal. I think I've made this comparison before of like, you know, I go to a bar to meet people, but it's like, I don't know who the fuck's who.
Yeah, dude.
You don't have a shared thing.
Dude, like, I'll even like, I'll play off of what you said. Like, I don't feel like I have like I do have a problem making new friends because I don't have new friends, but I don't have like a problem in the way of like I'm afraid of them or I don't know how to talk to people or some shit like that. Like no, I'm confident in those aspects, but what I don't have any confidence in is some kind of like, why is there no way for us to meet people our age with like the common interest? But then I guess people would say it's the internet. But I'm talking about real life. Like, where do we go on a daily basis to meet people with common interests?
Normally, back in the day, you went to church every Sunday. Everyone in your town, and then you would, oh shit, you're my age and you live in the same town. What's up?
Right, like you would figure it out.
And you had that.
But that's what I'm saying.
Initial connection of we both believe in the same God, so. And then that can.
It's a great way to start, yeah.
Exactly.
And that's what I'm saying is that like that aspect of congregation for like not only like-minded people but like-aged people, like people of the same age range it's like there's nowhere to do it. You have to go to a club, a bar, I don't know where the hell else people go to, like some other places that like they're gonna either not be in the right state of mind where they're like their judgment is like altered or whatever.
Yeah, that's one thing. When you're drunk, you can make friends with fucking anybody. Like, realistically, we wouldn't be friends if we were sober.
Yeah, and like you said, like how are you supposed to know anything about anybody there? Like you don't know. Like what if that girl over there is like into like reselling and flipping shit too, or if she's like works in a cubicle somewhere, you know, doing like financing and shit, like,
or she's just a slut,
or if she's just sucking dick on the corner, bro. Yeah, like
you really don't know anything other than they like whatever drink they have in their hand. He's drinking a Corona. He looks Corona.
We're all here to get fucked up. Yeah,
exactly. And
And
sometimes you don't even go there to mingle. Sometimes people will go there just to associate with the people they came with and drink. So you never fucking know, and that's just a terrible when.
I literally like this is like weird to say because like I live near like 150 fucking bars, but like I've only like envisioned myself going into one of these places since being able to go, and like just solo. Like I just envisioned myself going in there and like pulling up to the fucking bar and like ordering a drink and like getting looked at by people and me looking back at people, and then like what happens beyond that point? Like do we strike up a conversation? Is that like there's nothing to it? Like there's no depth.
You gotta make that direct eye, you go, so if they do it back and you make the direct eye contact, you get up and you go say, so how about them Packers?
Right, like
whatever the fuck you talk about, I don't fucking know.
That's what I'm to see how long you can bullshit for.
But
like
dude, that's another big thing too. Of I suck at small talk. I don't like fucking.
Me
How
too.
about the weather? And it's like that shit can only go on so long, and then it's like, how do you just drop? So, are you familiar with Freud's fucking idea?
Right.
Like, how the fuck do you just drop that on somebody? You don't know where the interests lie, and I
Right.
don't know how to feel out the water, I guess.
Yeah, and
because technology didn't let me do that.
and I feel like that's like a weird thing with like people at the work environment. For me, I know you don't like have to interact with, I don't think, too many people, but for me, like I don't interact with a lot neither.
I don't have to, but I do.
Only a handful that I interact with.
Same.
But even with them, like I feel sometimes because I'm not trying to like make small talk the way that I notice other people make small talk amongst each other, that they think that I have like a problem or something.
Dude, I feel the same fucking way.
Yeah, and I'm like,
I don't know how to
if you want to talk, like then we can talk, but like you got to come with something, you know?
Right.
Like I don't know what to just, like you said, what am I supposed to be like? Damn, it's really like hot out today.
Like, it's if you're outside, oh, it's fucking hot out, or oh, we got a lot of fucking work. Like, oh, shit's fucked, bro. It's like,
Yeah.
I could do that, but it'll just be motherfuckers. Like at my work, I would do it a little just randomly. Oh, would you rather do this or this? Like, I don't know. I just fucking, I don't know. My brain says don't do that.
Oh yeah. 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 So it's like, it's weird. Like it's almost like we're on a different like frequency than they are.
Yeah.
You know, in a way, and it's like. It can give them the impression that we're on like a lower frequency, but we're in fact not. Like we're doing just okay. We're doing fine. It's just the fact that, you know, whatever you like get from that, like making that small talk or whatever, like I don't know, we just don't, like I don't know if we don't value it or if we just don't do it. Like because like it's not that there's never small talk, like there will be, and like it's fine. Like that's my view on it. Like it's fine. Like I like having it.
It's easy to small talk with people I already am familiar with, but
Yep.
to just go and small talk with somebody else, it's like, what the fuck do I even small talk about?
Right, like you could tell them like what you do, and then like,
Oh, what do you do for a living, man?
yeah, I'd be like, I move light bulbs around, or you'd be like, what do you say?
I always that's another problem I have. I over explain everything and overcomplicate it instead of just saying like, oh yeah, I flip shit. Oh, I work for this thing. We like buy shit from there, and then I over explain it every fucking time, and then I feel like people are like, all right, yeah, I'm gonna
And then
go talk to somebody else.
you got like the 3-word form, like we flip shit, like that's like the alternative.
But then it's like, you know,
It's like, what does that mean?
Don't want to
Like-
be short though. But yeah, if they're interested, they will ask more questions, and that's what.
I feel like that I always do that. Like I always give like a, not here because it's not good for the pod, but like I give like a short response typically to people because like
If they're interested, they'll ask.
yeah, like if they want further conversation, then that's like a good like technique to use. Like, you know, give them a little and then.
But my brain, you know, if somebody's short, I think they're not interested in talking because they're just giving short answers. So then it's like,
It depends like.
Yeah, you got to be able to read tone and body language, but because of growing up online, it's very hard to do that.
Okay, yeah, that's fair. I mean, you just gotta feel it out.
Yeah,
you know?
I get that. I'm learning as I go, but I'm just trying to relate it back to. Like,
I get confused still too. Like
that's why technology, I feel like, is detrimental to youth because you don't learn those social skills. At least I didn't.
yeah,
I'm
like
seeing it in.
if your online activity like is like inhibiting you from wait, is that the word? Where it's
Inhibiting you,
keep
stopping you from
yeah,
getting
yeah.
back. Yeah.
Yeah, so like if it's inhibiting you from social interaction or like those real life interactions or making real connections with people, then like reevaluate, or like maybe you as
But
the parent got to
yeah,
reevaluate you
and
for your
it's the parent you step in, because when I was younger, I didn't look at it as a fucking negative, because I was like, oh, I got friends on Destiny and shit. I can't wait to get out of school and to go fucking do Vault of Glass again. I got the boys, we're getting on or whatever. Yeah, it was like
and
I didn't see a problem.
it reminds me too of this video I just watched, but it was talking about something else, but it kind of applies where you know the decisions you make, like I think he broke it down to 3 categories, but I can remember 2. It's like whether it's what your preference is on. Is it going to be on the quality of the decision that you're making, which would be like the overall like impact or effect of it, or the convenience of the decision that you're making, which is kind of like
Yeah,
the
so
mind, like we
yeah,
were
so we're
talking
talking about
about.
the super ego, and it's like, do you want that instant gratification, or do you want to struggle to get a much better sense of
Right.
fulfillment?
So like yeah, just like you know, I guess, we have to do what our parents didn't, and also, try to help people to understand that it's like real important to evaluate the situation on like, a case by case basis with whatever you're doing with your kid or yourself. But like, are you overindulging or letting them overindulge to a point where it's like, yeah, negatively affecting them, like I definitely I don't want to say I feel the impacts of it, but I feel like I feel the impacts of it, because at the end of the day I'm still looking towards video games to like
Feel some
give
sense of accomplishment in
give
the
me
day.
gratification and like socialization and stuff like that. Yeah, and like I would much rather not be looking to them for that, but currently where my life is, that's what I'm doing. And I mean, you and I becoming friends again, I guess
Yeah.
you would say, is
I
like
mean,
an attempt to move away from this.
yeah,
But
the way I view it is like, anybody I've ever been a friend with, like, as long as they don't fuck me over, even if they did in some cases, you can admit your mistakes, like, we're cool. I always want the best for you still, no matter what. If you stab me in the back even, I would hope you learn from that. I still want what's best for you, though.
yeah, like
I cared
forgiveness
about you
is
once,
key.
I always care about you. And that's why it's like, that's where I'm a bike and saw you, and it's like, oh, what up? Even though it was like we hadn't talked in forever,
It was like natural for you.
exactly, because I never considered you not a friend, even if we don't talk. Um, but I think we should
Word.
probably wrap this up here, because I could keep going and kind of repeating myself in some sense, but further explaining, because that's all I fucking do.
Yeah, we'll go further. We hit on a little bit of like psychology in this, like to scratch the surface. So maybe we can do some more with like that in the future.
What
Like,
give me an idea, but also help sell the next whatever. Wouldn't be the
What-
next episode, maybe probably one after, but
with like what about psychology?
yeah. What about anything in particular, or just psychology in general? We'll figure it out.
I want to do more than Freud, because I want to know the opposing views to Freud and alternative
Yeah, I have
views
some
and
other
stuff.
shit in here too that I didn't get the time to research about, like some of Carl Rogers, some of
Okay.
his theories and shit. And there's some other things too.
Because I remember in school that was mainly who we went off of for whatever reason. I think there was maybe another gentleman that they largely talked about, and maybe that was who it is.
Was it Nishi?
Oh, probably, yeah.
I don't know how to pronounce his name.
With an N or whatever, yeah.
Niez. Some. It's spelled very weird, because I think it's
Yeah.
Russian. It might be German. I don't fucking know.
Yeah, and I want to get beyond that, because that would give me a good opportunity to do some research that I have been wanting to do on psychology for a while, and that way it's a good follow up to this, even though we do them in whatever order we want. But
Yeah, exactly. So that might be next episode. but hopefully we'll have our first guest on the next one.
Oh yeah, let's do that.
Yeah.
I forgot.
We'll talk more about that because we got to get it all worked out. We'll talk more about that. I don't know if you want to make another one. You want to do an after hours thing, but thank you for watching this.
We love
hit
you.
Whatever the Rumble button, the like button, whatever it is on your fucking preferred streaming service. Share it. Comment. Tell us your thoughts below. I don't know about you, but I'm gonna try to respond to as many comments as possible.
Oh,
because
I'm in there.
Be active. Follow us at Many Parallels on Twitter. Probably on Instagram too. I haven't made the account yet. Love you. This is us signing out.